But life gets easier to contend with when you surrender to the journey. So we've all been through a lot. When we're marching through that, when you see it as a journey, like that's just an easier way to move through it. And I know that there will be people who are like, oh, yeah, stick your head in the sands. No, 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 no. Keep listening. Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Hurdle, and today's going to be a solo episode. There has been some rescheduling things behind the scenes with guests, and I think it's really appropriate for me to do this episode anyway. So I'll explain more, but it's been really tough. It's been a tough year. For those of you who know, like from a highlight perspective, I had a really gnarly hip surgery. It wasn't what I was expecting. I thought I was going to have a hip replacement this year. Come to find out, it was more like, no, you got to have this other kind of hip surgery like now, and it's the worst recovery ever. And other things that I just don't share on the podcast, but it's been a really tough year. And then over a week ago, my partner of almost 2 years lost his oldest daughter, who would have been 21 this month, to epilepsy. She had a grand mal seizure, and she's had epilepsy since she was 12. So, really bright, accomplished, wonderful, beautiful human. And she's not with us anymore. And that was just like such a hit, obviously. And I can't even get into all of that. But for those who were aware, are aware, sent me love and messages, thank you so much. And for those who showed up and supported Jared, there are no words. So thank you for that. And other things happened on the team too, and it truly is indescribable. So if you'll indulge me, this episode is about when life gets hard. There are three essential steps that you can take, backed by science. I got a little woo in there, a little spiritual in there too, in order to stay resilient, to like keep moving forward. So again, if you'll indulge me, I wrote this episode. I did not chat GPT this episode. I wrote this episode. And just for where I am right now, in terms of energy and just trying to show up in the midst of everything, I'm going to show myself grace as an act of self love. And also as an act of modeling to you how sometimes it's okay to not be your full self and to not be all that people expect of you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, forgive me while I don't look at you. And instead, I read what I wrote instead of, like how I normally do and just kind of wing it and have a conversation with you. So here we go. It's been a tough month for our team with more challenges than any of us could have imagined. We've had to face the loss of loved ones, plural. I won't speak to my team's loss, but this wasn't the only death in the families of our team. Deal with serious health issues and hospitalization of team members and children, and manage the chaos that life can sometimes throw our way. I will just put that as etc. because those are the bigger things, but there were other things that happened as well that were just big snafus. I'm sure you've been through a season or many like this. It's during these times that everything feels irrationally difficult, and it can take everything we've got to just keep marching forward. But in the midst of grief and stress, there are ways to build resilience so that we can continue to show up for life and business. And my longtime listeners and friends know I've been through a lot in life, like things that probably should have taken me down. But somehow I figured out a way to rise above it. I can see that now. So my assistant and I today were trying to wrap our arms around all of the details of everyone's worlds to ensure no balls were getting dropped in this stressful season for so many of us on the team. And she finally says to me, crazy things happen to you all the time. Like you just get hammered, but you still stay positive. And my response to that was, what's the alternative? I mean, that seems horrible. the alternative to staying positive just to me would feel so dark because to her point, I do kind of get hammered. Like, I don't know why, but just irrational things happen a lot in my world. So in that moment, we decided that I needed to do a solo episode on what you or any of us can do to ensure that you can keep your chin up to function at the very least, cope until you can work your way towards thriving again. So I'll share three science backed ways that help you keep it together in the toughest of times. But if you'll indulge me, I'd like to speak at a spiritual level first and not a religious one. Please don't turn me off. I'm not getting into any type of wisdom tradition or anything. I mean, spiritual in terms of your relationship with yourself and your purpose. I'm saying all of this as someone who has PTSD and other things. Go back to previous episodes. I spill all of my beans, but life gets easier to contend with when you surrender to the journey. So we've all been through a lot. And again, technically, I have CPTSD, meaning lots of things have caused PTSD in my life in a string of events. And so when you've been exposed to trauma so many times, that just looks a little bit differently than like a one time trauma. Not comparing, contrast, like I'm just saying we all have different levels of trauma that we've experienced. And so when we're marching through that, when you see it as a journey, like that's just an easier way to move through it. And I know that there will be people who are like, oh, yeah, stick your head in the sands. No, 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 no. Keep listening. So when you stop looking at life as showing you favor versus punishing you, when you realize that it's not a war, it's a journey, and there will be obstacles, highs and lows, light and darkness, good and evil, then you realize that there is contrast in this life. And living as if there's not this kind of contrast is a surefire way to lose hope and remain in a constant state of disappointment because of chronically unmet expectations of an easy breezy life without friction. So when you can start to rest in a place where you can say that no matter how ugly the situation is or how great the loss is, you can find something to carry forward after moving through the worst of it, that is a place I would rather be. Perhaps you can carry forward wisdom that helps you cope with future responsibilities better, or experience that helps you navigate a higher stakes challenge in the future. Maybe finding purpose in the pain, turning losses into lessons, and failing forward are all mumbo jumbo for some of you. I get it. But committing to the long game, the whole journey affords you the chance to build the strength and endurance as you get further and further down your path. It is something to celebrate as you say goodbye to the person you were, the person you left behind, to evolve into the newest version of you after the experience you just endured. So that is my hot take for those who enjoy swimming in the deep end with me. Thank you. And for those who need a little more science, which that's 50% of me too, here are the three steps that can help you navigate these hard times with a bit more strength and grace, according to research. After we do the radical acceptance and understand you're on a journey and there's going to be seasons and contrasts, like when you look at life differently, then that's the baseline to me. And now here's three things according to science. So, number one, acknowledge and process your emotions. First, give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you're going through. Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ, reveals that research that acknowledging and processing your emotions rather than avoiding or suppressing them can reduce their intensity and help you recover more quickly. So, Amber version of this is you got to feel the feels. It doesn't have to be messy or dramatic. Just try journaling, even if it's just bulleting your ideas out and not really worrying about making it make too much sense. Just get it out of your brain. Talking to someone that you trust or simply sitting with your feelings without judgment. And I really had to do that this week because there was just so much going on, and I did not have the time to allow it to give me whiplash or to pull me down. Like I didn't have a day to just stay in bed and not function. So when I felt something, I really felt it. I allowed it to bubble up in its fullness, acknowledge it, and any other related feelings like guilt or guilt for having the feeling in the first place. And I just let it be what it was. I might journal in real time on my phone or maybe process a written journal later that night, maybe first thing in the morning when I wake up feeling a little more refreshed and renewed. Or I might talk my ideas out loud with a trusted friend to just get it off my heart, to just get those feelings off my heart. And I can say firsthand that I tried all of Goldman's suggestions and it helped keep me centered and stable enough to run two businesses, still be a mom, show up for my partner. Lord knows he needed that strength. And I was able to do all of that without hurting myself. Like I could help other people without hurting myself. I could give because I still had something to give. I wasn't pouring from an empty cup. So part of that is acknowledging those emotions. And by the way, any book that I mention, of course, we'll put that in the show notes at amberhurdle.com/podcast with an S. Okay, so number two is practice self compassion. Whew, it's so hard. We often treat ourselves more harshly than we would anyone else. Just think of the ugly things we say to ourselves that we would never say to our friends, let alone stand by and hear anyone else speak to them that way. Many of you have followed my lead on naming your inner mean girl or your inner mean boy, and I call mine Gertrude. And it's easier to personify that side of yourself so you could just tell it to shut up. Just give it a name. Shut up, Gertrude. Like you have no authority here. I am absolutely not listening to you or any of this nonsense. And in self compassion, the proven power of being kind to yourself, Kristen Neff explains that self compassion, which involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer to a friend, can significantly improve your resilience. She shares studies that show that people who practice self compassion are better able to cope with difficult situations and experience less stress and anxiety. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, remind yourself that it's okay to struggle. It is okay to struggle. This week has been a struggle. If we didn't struggle through it, we wouldn't even be human. And that you're doing the best that you can. If you're doing the best that you can, what else do you want from yourself? Sometimes your best is surviving. Sometimes it's coping. Sometimes it's turning in a B instead of an A, like I'm doing on this podcast today, just to conserve energy. And that's okay. So think about that. And if that's something that you struggle with, I would recommend check into Kristen Neff or read her Self Compassion, the Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, or look for things online or podcast episodes or books on Audible that will teach you the art of self compassion. It's not easy, but I'll tell you, naming my nasty girl Gertrude, it's not just me, like my friends, my partner, everybody is like, tell Gertrude to shut up. Is that Gertrude talking or is that Amber talking? So it just becomes like a language of constantly reminding myself and affording my friends the chance to remind myself of that as well. Number three is stay connected and seek support. Of course, human connection is a powerful tool for resilience. Researchers at the American Psychological Association concluded that the social support can enhance resilience by providing a sense of belonging and security. Sense of belonging, that's another word. That's a good word for psychological safety in the workforce. So this is something we need at work. It's something we definitely need in our personal life, and especially when things aren't going right. So whether it's leaning on family, friends, or colleagues, staying connected with others provides emotional support and helps buffer the impact of stress. I mean, just consider it like a blanket that you put around yourself or like a cushion that you're able to land on. And I'll just say it. You may be disappointed in who does not show up for you. And while, yes, it sucks, it's also more data. Go back to the journey, right? So, like these three things are scientifically proven, but I want you to go back to the journey because if you look at life as a journey where there's challenges and lessons and wins and everything, and it's all mixed up together, and you accept that that is so, then you can accept this is more data that I've been provided to help me make better decisions along the journey about where I'm going to put my energy or who I'm going to sacrifice for or show up for unconditionally. There are seasons like, oh my gosh, my best friend and I have been best friends for 20 years. So like there's so many deposits in each other's bank accounts that sometimes, if we don't show up exactly the way that we're supposed to for each other, that's a whole different ball game, right? Because we have shown up for each other. And just for the record, my bestie showed up for me in this for me and my partner. But I just want you to understand that what I'm saying is if somebody doesn't show up for you in a particular season, they might be going through a season too. But if there's somebody that takes and they don't give, usually you're going to find that out during these type of situations as well. And sometimes it's family, and I've seen that a lot over the years, and it hurts. So again, feel the feelings, but then also be like, all right, I'm going to register this not out of contempt, but just out of awareness to preserve my energy moving forward. And, whew, I could tell you stories about this. People want to ride in your limo, but not your bus, or they only want to kick it with you in the sunshine, but they don't want to hang out in the rain. So, if those are the type of people that you're surrounded with, you need to know that. Okay, so back to the good people. Don't hesitate to reach out and let others in. Just knowing you're not alone can make all the difference. My support system, incredible. It's truly incredible. If I had a single true secret for how I have navigated such a roller coaster of a life and how I keep the train on the tracks this year, and especially the past month and this past week, is because mostly I have so many amazing people in my life that fill my cup, that put wind in my sails, and sometimes a fire underneath my behind. So you need all of those. And you can't do it alone. You just can't. It's too much for one person to navigate. This world is too hard to navigate on your own. Okay, so to recap, on the more spiritual side of things, I encourage you in weeks like the week that I'm having, the month that I'm having, the year that I'm having, and my team's having, trust the journey and accept that the journey will have contrasts that gives you amazing and exhilarating experiences as well as pain and disappointments. And it's all experience and information you can use as you navigate your journey to becoming the best version of yourself. Then science says that acknowledging your emotions, practicing self compassion, and staying connected to others all help build the resilience you need to keep going, even when life feels overwhelming. Now, these steps won't make everything magically better. We all know that, right? But they can help you find your footing as you navigate through the challenges so many of us are facing right now. And so, before we part ways, I want to remind you that we are in the final weeks of this particular podcast. The Bombshell Business Podcast is being sunsetted, but I'm still going to be putting out content. Hopefully, we won't miss even a week. So I encourage you to follow me on YouTube, and that is youtube.com/ at Amber Hurdle, and or sign up for my newsletter that delivers tons of actionable branding advice to you every week. I'm not spammy, ask around, I promise. So you can go to amberhurdle.com/ newsletter, and we'll get you hooked up so we can continue to stay in touch and you can continue to get this content that you have enjoyed, hopefully. And in the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of each other. There is a lot going on in this world that we're living in right now, but together, again, the word together, we can get through this. So be kind to yourself, show love to yourself, and I will see you on the next episode.